Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Why? Because your job will make you a living, but working on yourself will make you a fortune. Most people spend 8 hours a day building their career, but almost no time building themselves. They sharpen skills for a paycheck, but never sharpen the mind, the body, the spirit, the things that create true wealth. When you grow yourself, your mindset, your discipline, your character, you unlock opportunities your job alone could never give you. The stronger you are, the more value you bring. And the more value you bring, the higher the rewards. So don't just chase success at work. Invest in becoming the kind of person success chases. Work harder on you, because when you grow, everything around you grows. Money is much like a seed. If you think about it, every dollar you earn is a seed that carries within it the potential for a harvest. Now, here's the question. Do you eat the seed today, or do you plant it for tomorrow? Too many people spend their lives consuming everything they earn. They eat the seed, enjoy the moment, and when tomorrow comes, they're left with nothing but empty hands and unfulfilled dreams. But those who learn the wisdom of planting, of holding back some of that seed and putting it into fertile ground, they are the ones who see fields of abundance later on. When I was starting out, I didn't understand this principle. I thought money was for spending on dinners, on little pleasures, on whatever felt urgent at the time. But I quickly learned that pleasure today can rob you of prosperity tomorrow. It wasn't until I started treating a portion of every dollar as sacred seed, untouchable, reserved for planting, that my financial life began to change. The strategy is simple, though it requires discipline. Take 10 to 20% of everything you earn and redirect it into assets, not liabilities. Don't buy something that loses value the moment you own it. Put it instead into land, stocks, businesses, anything that appreciates, produces, and multiplies. Just as a farmer wouldn't waste his seed on barren soil, don't waste your money on things that don't return value. This is the great shift. To see money not as a harvest to consume, but as a seed to grow. With time, patience, and consistency, those seeds will produce more than you could ever imagine. Plant wisely today, so tomorrow you can walk through fields of plenty. Poverty and wealth are not just conditions of the bank account, they are conditions of the mind. Poverty thinking asks, what can I buy with this? Wealth thinking asks, what can I multiply with this? The poor often spend to satisfy an immediate desire, while the wealthy direct that same energy toward creating something that grows. And here lies the divide. It's not the amount of money that makes the difference, it's the perspective you bring to it. I remember when I was young, I earned a little extra money, and my first instinct was to spend it, go out, enjoy it, show it off. But then I noticed something. Those who were truly building wealth didn't talk about spending their money. They talked about using it to create more value. They looked at money not as a tool of consumption, but as a tool of multiplication. They asked, if I put this here, how will it grow? If I invest this wisely, what will it become 5 years from now? The strategy is simple but transformative. Instead of using your money to chase pleasure, redirect that energy into building value. Build skills, build assets, build relationships that return dividends. Every purchase should pass through a filter. Will this grow or will this shrink my wealth? That single question changes the way you handle money. Suddenly, the latest gadget looks less attractive when you realize it won't earn you a penny, but a small investment in a stock, a book, or a piece of equipment for your business could create streams of return for years. Wealth is not built by those who constantly spend, it's built by those who multiply. Learn to think multiplication, and money will begin to serve you instead of escape you. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they can trade time for money forever. A job, no matter how good, is designed to give you a living, not freedom, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your job pays the bills, puts food on the table, and provides stability. But if all you ever do is exchange hours for dollars, you'll find yourself trapped in a cycle where the moment you stop working, the income stops flowing. That's not security, that's dependence. I remember when I first realized this truth. I was working hard, giving my best, but I noticed something. There was a ceiling to my income. There were only so many hours in a day, and no matter how skilled I became, the model itself was limited. Meanwhile, I looked at others who had built assets, businesses, investments, intellectual property, and I saw that their income continued whether they were at the office, at home, or even asleep. That was a different kind of wealth. The strategy is to build income sources that work without you. It doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow. It means you start building something on the side today. Maybe it's a small business. Maybe it's buying a rental property. Maybe it's investing in stocks or creating something that pays you royalties. The vehicle matters less than the principle. Create assets that generate income independent of your time. The practical step is simple but urgent. Start now. Don't wait until you have enough or find the right time. Begin with what you have. Even a small side income stream, if nurtured, can grow into something substantial. The goal isn't just to make a living, it's to buy back your time, to step into freedom, and to let your money work harder than you do. It's easy to dream about big numbers, but the truth is this: if you can't manage little, you'll never be trusted with much. Wealth is not an accident, it's a discipline. And that discipline begins with the smallest amounts. Some people say, if I had $1 million, I'd know exactly what to do. But here's the reality. If you can't take care of the first 100, the million will slip right through your fingers. Money doesn't change you, it simply magnifies who you already are. When I was starting out, I didn't have much. In fact, there were times when every dollar mattered. But that's exactly when I learned the lessons that shaped everything else. I decided to treat a single dollar with as much respect as I would someday treat 1,000. I tracked it, I gave it a job, I paid attention to where it went. That simple act of discipline built the habits that later allowed me to handle larger sums without fear or carelessness. The strategy is simple but powerful. Respect every dollar. Don't see a small amount as meaningless. That cup of coffee you didn't track, that impulse purchase you ignored, these may seem small, but they form patterns. And those patterns determine whether wealth flows to you or slips away. So here's the practical step. Track your first $100. Write it down, account for it, and be deliberate about it. Learn to manage the little with excellence, because that's the training ground for more. If you can turn $100 into $110 and do it consistently, you've proven that you're ready for bigger opportunities. Mastery over small amounts builds the capacity for larger responsibilities. And when you respect the little, life has a way of entrusting you with much. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned about money is this: it's much easier to lose it than to make it. And often, people don't go broke because they never earned. They go broke because they weren't careful with what they had. Protecting your capital is not just about caution, it's about respect. It takes discipline and time to build wealth. But just one careless decision, one blind risk, can undo years of effort. That's why the first responsibility of anyone who seeks to grow their fortune is to guard what they've already built. Too many people chase the promise of quick returns. They hear about the latest trend, a friend's hot tip, or a deal that sounds too good to pass up. And before they know it, they've put their hard-earned money into something they don't even understand. That's not investing, that's gambling. And gambling with your future is a dangerous habit. I've seen people work for 10 years, only to lose it all in one reckless move. Don't let that be your story. The strategy is simple. Never put your money into something you don't fully understand. If you can't explain it clearly to yourself, you have no business being in it. Take the time to study, ask questions, and dig deeper until you know exactly what you're stepping into. And before you commit, write out 3 things. What's the risk? What's the reward? And what's the exit plan? If those answers aren't clear, step back and wait. Opportunities will come again. It's not about avoiding risk altogether. It's about taking smart, calculated risks. Protecting your capital doesn't mean hiding it under the mattress. It means giving it the chance to grow safely and wisely. Build with care. Defend what you've built. And never forget, one bad decision can erase years of work, but one good discipline can protect a lifetime of progress. If you've ever wondered what grows faster than money, the answer is knowledge. Money can multiply, yes, but knowledge multiplies at an even greater speed because it feeds every opportunity, every decision, and every strategy you'll ever take. And here's the truth. Ignorance is the most expensive debt you'll ever carry. You may think lack of money holds people back, but in reality, it's lack of knowledge that keeps them stuck. You can lose all your money and get it back again if you've developed the right wisdom and skills, but if you're ignorant, even wealth will slip right through your fingers. The marketplace pays for value, not effort, and your value is determined by what you know and how well you apply it. That's why your first investment should always be in yourself. When I was starting out, I didn't have much capital, but I had time and a hunger to learn. I read books, I attended seminars, I sought out mentors who were ahead of me, and I discovered something remarkable. As my knowledge grew, my confidence grew. As my confidence grew, my actions changed. And as my actions changed, so did my income. That's the power of compounding knowledge. It alters not just what you know, but who you become. The strategy is simple. Keep learning, and let those lessons shape your decisions. Don't just work harder, work wiser. A new skill can open a door to higher income. A single insight from a book can save you years of mistakes. 30 minutes a day is enough to turn decades of someone else's experience into wisdom you can apply instantly. Money can vanish, markets can turn, but what you've learned, what you've truly mastered, can never be taken away. And that knowledge, when applied, will compound faster than any dollar ever could. Discipline is not loud, but it is powerful. Wealth doesn't arrive in a flash of brilliance or through one extraordinary event. It is built in the quiet, steady rhythm of consistent action. Too many people chase intensity. They want to save big one month, invest big one time, or make a sudden windfall. But here's the truth. Consistency beats intensity every time. The little decisions, repeated over years, are what create abundance. Think about health for a moment. Going to the gym once for 5 hours won't change much, but going 30 minutes a day, every day, transforms your body and your energy. The same law applies to money. Saving or investing a small amount regularly, whether it feels significant or not, will do more for you over the long term than waiting for the perfect time or the perfect big opportunity. It's the discipline that compounds. I remember when I first started putting money aside, it was laughably small. It didn't feel like it could make any difference. But I committed to the practice because I knew I wasn't just building savings, I was building the habit. Over time, those small, quiet transfers became larger, then automatic, and eventually turned into investments that began to work for me. The practice mattered more than the size because once the habit was locked in, growth was inevitable. That's the strategy. Focus on small, steady actions. Automate them if you can. Set up a weekly transfer that happens whether you think about it or not. Let discipline become your ally so that money quietly stacks in the background while you focus on living. You won't see the results overnight, But you'll wake up one day and realize the quiet work of discipline has created loud results. Wealth doesn't shout while it's being built. It whispers through discipline until one day it speaks for itself. One of the most dangerous traps in the pursuit of wealth is lifestyle inflation. It's subtle, almost invisible at first. You work hard, you earn a little more, and suddenly your expenses grow to match it. The nicer car, the bigger house, the fancier dinners, all of it feels like progress. But in reality, it keeps you standing still. More income without discipline doesn't create wealth. It only creates a more expensive version of being broke. The strategy is simple, but it requires wisdom. Keep your lifestyle simple while your wealth grows in the background. When you receive a raise, don't immediately increase your spending. Instead, treat that extra income as fuel for your future. Save half of it, invest it, or redirect it toward assets that will continue to grow. By doing this, you ensure your standard of living doesn't just expand on the surface, but your financial foundation deepens underneath. I remember meeting a man who made 5 times what he used to, yet he was still living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because every time his income rose, his lifestyle rose even faster. He had a nicer car but bigger payments, a larger house but heavier debt, more gadgets but no freedom. Contrast that with another man I knew who earned modestly. But each time his income increased, he banked a portion of it. Years later, he had investments that provided security and freedom, while the first man had only higher bills. The key isn't to deny yourself forever. It's to delay the impulse to inflate your lifestyle. Live below your means, even as your means increase. This isn't about deprivation. It's about discipline. It's about letting your wealth mature quietly, so when the time comes to enjoy more, you can do it without stress, debt, or fear. The real test of prosperity isn't how much you earn, it's how much you keep. Wealth, at its core, is the reward of patience. It doesn't arrive overnight, and it rarely comes to those who demand everything. Now, the ability to delay gratification is one of the greatest disciplines you can ever master, not only for building wealth, but for building character. Every time you trade short-term pleasure for long-term freedom, you are making a deposit into your future. And while that deposit may feel invisible in the moment, years later it shows up as security, opportunity, and freedom that others only dream of. The strategy is straightforward but not easy. Learn to say, not yet. That new car, that impulse purchase, that shiny upgrade, it can all wait. Every dollar spent on a fleeting pleasure is a dollar that could have been working for you, compounding and multiplying in the background. Instead of asking, can I afford this now? Ask, will this decision serve me in 10 years? That shift in thinking turns temporary satisfaction into lasting success. A practical way to build this muscle is simple. Wait 30 days before making any big purchase. Put it on hold, walk away, and give yourself the space to decide if it's truly a need or just a passing desire. You'll be amazed how many must-haves lose their shine after a few weeks. And if, after waiting, it still makes sense and fits into your long-term plan, then you can move forward with confidence instead of regret. I've seen people spend a fortune chasing weekends of fun, only to wake up years later with nothing but memories and bills. Meanwhile, those who learned to sacrifice a little in the present built empires of freedom for themselves and their families. The principle is simple. Patience creates abundance, while impatience steals it. Remember, you can enjoy almost anything you want in life, just not all at once. It has been said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I've found that to be absolutely true. Your network is your net worth, because human beings naturally rise or sink to the level of those around them. If your closest circle spends without thinking, laughs off responsibility, and treats tomorrow as someone else's problem, it's only a matter of time before you adopt the same habits. But if your circle is filled with dreamers, builders, and achievers, their standards will lift yours. Success leaves clues, but it also leaves an atmosphere. And you must choose carefully which atmosphere you live in. The strategy is clear. Spend more time with builders, not spenders. Builders talk about ideas, possibilities, investments and opportunities. Spenders talk about the weekend, the next purchase, or the latest distraction. Builders plant seeds that grow into orchards. Spenders eat the seeds and wonder why there's no harvest. And here's the truth. You don't even have to abandon old friends completely. You simply have to become intentional about adding new ones. Make sure the loudest voices in your life are pointing you upward, not pulling you sideways. A practical way to begin is to join one wealth-focused community this very month. It could be a business group, an investment club, a mastermind, or even a local class where growth-minded people gather. That single step plugs you into conversations you may have never heard before. Suddenly words like assets, dividends, equity, and cash flow replace talk of parties, sales, and discounts. And those conversations slowly rewire how you think. Because wealth begins in the mind before it shows up in the bank. I once joined a small group of entrepreneurs who met weekly in a coffee shop. None of us had much at the time, but being in that room changed the trajectory of my life. We shared ideas, critiqued plans, and held each other accountable. Years later, every single one of us was ahead of where we would have been alone. That's the hidden power of association. It accelerates what's possible. So remember this. If you want to change your financial future, change the company you keep. Money doesn't grow in confusion, it grows in order. Chaos scatters, but systems multiply. I've seen people make good money year after year and still end up broke because they never gave their money an assignment. They treated it like a visitor that comes and goes, instead of a worker that needs a job. The truth is, every dollar you earn should come with instructions. If you don't tell it where to go, it will disappear into things you don't even remember buying. The philosophy is simple. Money grows under order, not confusion. And order doesn't happen by accident, it's intentional. You must build systems. Systems for saving, systems for investing, systems for giving, and yes, systems for living. Think of it like a farm. If the farmer doesn't assign a plot for wheat, a plot for corn, and a plot for vegetables, everything grows wild. Or worse, nothing grows at all. Money works the same way. When you assign it a clear role, it produces. When you leave it unassigned, it slips through your fingers. One of the best strategies is to automate the system so discipline is built in. The moment money enters your account, divide it into categories. A portion for saving, a portion for investing, a portion for giving, and the rest for living. That way, generosity is consistent, savings accumulate, investments grow, and your lifestyle is sustainable. Without this kind of structure, money becomes a source of stress. With it, money becomes a tool for building freedom. Here's a practical step to start today. Open separate accounts for each purpose. Label them clearly. Saving, investing, giving, living, and route your income accordingly. Even if the amounts are small, the structure builds the habit. Over time, those little deposits grow into large balances, and the order you created begins to reward you with peace, control, and eventually, wealth. Because wealth doesn't come from chance, it comes from systems. One of the greatest temptations when money starts coming in is to upgrade the lifestyle too quickly. You make your first profit, and suddenly the car looks too old, the house looks too small, or the clothes seem out of fashion. But the truth is, that first fruit is not for eating, it's for planting again. The moment you consume your gains, you cut off the very tree that was supposed to feed you for a lifetime. The philosophy is clear. Don't eat the fruit. Plant the seeds back. Profits are not a signal to spend. They are an opportunity to multiply. If you roll your gains back into bigger and better assets, you build momentum. It's like a snowball. Small at first, but every time you push it forward, it grows larger. Soon it's rolling downhill under its own weight, and that's when wealth starts to take on a life of its own. When I first started making money, I learned to resist the urge to display it. Instead of buying things to impress others, I bought assets that produced more income. Instead of a new car, I bought a small piece of land. Instead of a vacation, I bought into opportunities that return dividends. Those choices may not have impressed anyone at the time, but years later, the results spoke for themselves. The lifestyle eventually came, but it was built on a foundation of assets, not appearances. The strategy is simple, but not always easy. Keep reinvesting. Every profit, every dividend, every extra dollar should first be considered as seed for the next harvest. Track your passive income growth every month so you can see the compounding at work. That habit keeps you motivated and disciplined because the numbers tell the story of progress. Wealth isn't built by how much you make today. It's built by how much you let grow for tomorrow. One of the most important lessons in building wealth is learning to resist the temptation to spend your first profits. The moment a little extra money comes in, the mind starts imagining new comforts. A nicer car, a bigger house, fancier dinners. But that is eating the fruit too soon. The real secret is not to consume the fruit, but to plant the seeds back into the ground. Every dollar of profit carries within it the potential for a future orchard. If you eat it, it's gone. If you plant it, it multiplies. When I first started earning beyond my basic needs, I had two choices. I could showcase my success or reinvest it. I chose reinvestment. Instead of buying luxuries, I directed profits into businesses, real estate, and other assets. At the time, it didn't look glamorous. My car was still modest, my house still simple, and my clothes nothing extraordinary. But in the background, something far more powerful was happening. Those reinvested dollars began working harder than I ever could. They created income streams that freed up my time and opened new opportunities. The strategy is simple but requires discipline. Roll every gain into bigger assets. Don't let short-term comfort steal your long-term freedom. Profits are not the reward, they're the raw material for greater rewards. If you keep multiplying them, the day will come when your assets pay for your lifestyle without you having to think twice. Here's a practical step to keep yourself on track. Measure your passive income every single month. Track it the way a farmer watches his crops. Even if the growth is small at first, seeing those numbers rise creates motivation and confidence. Over time, it compounds, and soon your wealth becomes a living system that sustains itself. Wealth doesn't come from what you keep, it comes from what you multiply. Most people live with their eyes fixed on Friday night. They work hard all week, collect a paycheck, and spend it on entertainment, food, or small pleasures that are gone by Monday morning. But true wealth is never built on weekends. It's built on decades. The wealthy don't just plan for the month. They stretch their vision out 30 years. They ask, what will my finances, my family, my legacy look like in a generation? That kind of thinking creates a completely different set of decisions. When I was young, I had the same habit of living for short-term pleasures. If I had a little money in my pocket, I'd look for where I could spend it. But then I learned the power of long-term vision. I was taught to write out a plan, not for the next week or month, but for the next 10 years. At first it felt strange. 10 years felt too far away. But that plan became my compass. Instead of asking, what do I want now? I began asking, What will this decision look like 10 years from now? That shift changed everything. The strategy is simple. Stretch your vision. Look further down the road than most people are willing to. When you extend your horizon, you naturally make wiser choices. You spend less on what fades quickly and invest more in what compounds over time. Here's a practical step you can take immediately. Write a 10-year wealth plan. Sit down with a pen and paper and imagine your financial life 10 years from today. How much passive income do you want? What assets do you want to own? What debts do you want gone? Then break it into yearly goals. That plan won't just give you direction, it will give you discipline. Remember, wealth is not the result of short-term excitement, but long-term vision. Think decades, not weekends. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned is that contribution multiplies wealth. At first, it sounds backwards. We think that giving reduces what we have, but in reality, giving is what keeps the door of abundance open. When you give, whether it's money, time, or knowledge, you activate a principle that brings more back to you in ways you couldn't have imagined. I remember early in my career when money was tight, someone told me, even now, set aside a portion for contribution. At first I thought, how can I give when I barely have enough for myself? But I tried it. I gave a little, sometimes to a cause I cared about, sometimes to help a friend, sometimes just quietly to someone in need. What I noticed was this: my heart expanded, my gratitude grew, and strangely enough, opportunities started finding me. Contribution doesn't just change the receiver, it changes the giver, and in that change, you attract more. The strategy here is not to wait until you're wealthy to give. If you don't practice generosity with $1, you won't practice it with 1,000. Giving is a discipline, not a luxury. It keeps you from becoming a prisoner of your own success, and it aligns you with the flow of abundance. Here's something practical you can start today. Set aside 5 to 10% of everything you earn for contribution. Put it in a separate envelope or account. Label it for giving, and use it to make a difference. You'll be amazed at how powerful that small percentage becomes when practiced consistently. Wealth is more than numbers in an account. True wealth is the capacity to touch lives, to build something greater than yourself. And the secret is this: the more you give, the more you grow. Contribution multiplies wealth. Wealth without legacy is really just poverty of purpose. What good is it if you build a fortune, live in comfort, and then let it all vanish the moment you're gone? True wealth isn't just about what you accumulate while you're alive. It's about what continues to live and breathe after you're no longer here. It's about creating something that carries your values, your vision, and your contribution forward into the next generation. I remember someone once asking me, "What do you want to be remembered for?" At first I thought about success, about what I had built for myself. But then it hit me. That's too small a vision. The real question is, what will I leave behind for others? Will my children, my community, and the people I've touched be richer in values, opportunities, and wisdom because I was here? That's the measure of wealth. The strategy is simple. Start thinking long-term beyond your own lifetime. Wealthy people don't just buy cars and houses. They build trusts. They create businesses that can thrive without them. They invest in education for their children, and they pass on principles as well as possessions. Assets are important, yes, but so are the lessons, the disciplines, and the philosophies that made those assets possible in the first place. Without those, money is quickly squandered. A very practical step you can take is to draft a will or a legacy plan. Put it in writing, what you want passed on, how you want your resources to be used, and most importantly, what values you want preserved. It's not just about money, it's about direction. Because if you don't make the plan, someone else will. And chances are they won't carry your vision with the same passion. Wealth that dies with you isn't wealth at all. Legacy is the ultimate return on your life's investment. True wealth lives beyond your lifetime.